Access, an inside look at what it takes to operate Iowa's largest entertainment and convention facilities. This is Iowa Events Center All Access from Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome into All Access here on the Iowa Everywhere Podcast Network. We're in the Channel Seed Studios. Matt Van Winkle, Adam Flack, the marketing director at the Iowa Event Center, joins me as usual. Adam, how we doing?
We're doing okay. Yeah, it's a heavy day, but overall we're doing okay. Just thinking about everybody in Perry right now.
Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that. Man, we got a lot to get to. Again, I always mention it, but you guys are very busy over there. Man, we haven't talked since I was at WWE Monday Night Raw since we were there. Yeah. Got to catch up with you there. It was a really fun show. Great time right before the holidays. They had the holiday theme there. I think Cody Rhodes even gave away a Christmas tree at the end. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to follow you and Chris throughout the event, like watching the socials and producing all that great content. And hopefully the winner had a great time. Getting to meet him was fun as well. But, the event was great. Went through the holiday season after WWE with some Wolves and Wild games. And, kicking off right now, we're getting into the heat of it right away with some games this weekend and Globetrotters on Sunday. So WWE was a great event for us. Glad you had a great time. And now it just keeps going. Did you see The Rock came back last week?
Oh my gosh, I did. Was that expected? Cool. That was pretty cool. I mean, every time you get The Rock back and that, if you smell, I don't know why that always gets the audience popping.
in December instead of January, but having him back involved will pull the old guys like me back into it.
Yeah, for sure. Man, we just missed out on him too, apparently.
Yeah,
him and CM Punk. But hey, yeah, like you mentioned, you got the Iowa Wild Friday and Saturday. The Wolves are in full swing. You got to take in a Timberwolves game, I know, pretty recently, right, with your son up in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, my son's always been a big LeBron fan, and we think we're getting towards the end of being able to go see him live. And we hadn't been able to do that yet. So fortunately, I had the opportunity to go up at the end of December to watch the Lakers Timberwolves. And I'll tell you, Chip and the guys over at the Wolves say it all the time. At the Iowa Wolves, they say it. That the NBA's next stars are here right in Iowa, and it's true. We go up there and Naz Reid just has a great game against the Lakers, and he got his start down here at the Iowa Wolves, and seeing him succeed is awesome. Garza wasn't playing that night; he was inactive, but they're sitting on the bench. But the Timberwolves have a great team. It's a great arena. They just renovated it recently, so if you have a chance, I'd get up there and see them because it was a lot of fun. And I haven't been to too many NBA games, but the atmosphere was incredible that night, and very similar to what you see when you come down to the Iowa Wolves games.
Yeah, Minnesota Timberwolves, first place in the Western Conference, 24-9 as we record this, having a great season, and it all starts right here in Des Moines, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was the close game that we saw with LeBron hitting that 2-pointer that he thought was a three to tie up the game at the end.
Yeah.
So we got to see a really close game and a Timberwolves win. So it was fun.
Nice, cool. We mentioned. Got the Iowa Wild this weekend, the Wolves, the Harlem Globetrotters coming up Sunday, January 7th. You got the Rodeo coming to town on January 12th and 13th. We got a little bit something for everybody, right?
Yeah, that's a big weekend for us. So we'll have to see if we can get somebody from the Rodeo on next week. But Cinch World's Toughest Rodeo Friday and Saturday next weekend. It's really fun for everybody because they've got like the All Access pre-show for kids that go down. It's included with your ticket, so you go down on the dirt and do the pony rides and sit on the bull and do all that fun stuff. And then it's true rodeo action. When you do a PBR event, it's all bull riding and that's it. But when you come to a rodeo, you get everything from the saddle bronc, and there still is bull riding and a couple specialty acts as well. So we're looking forward to that. But it's part of a busy weekend at the Iowa Event Center next weekend.
Yeah, what else you guys got coming on? I know you got some gymnastics in town, little non-sports related. The Iowa Caucuses are coming. You guys are hosting quite a few national media members, right?
Yeah, that little thing, the Iowa Caucus, that people seem to get pretty excited about. And if you've watched TV, I think it's coming. But we host the Media Filing Center. So with partners, with the Greater Des Moines Partnership and Catch Des Moines and Polk County, we're able to host quite a few members of the media from around the world that kind of use our space to set up and We have a backdrop set up for them and workspace, and they can kind of have a home base while they're in town covering the Caucus. So excited about that. That opens up next week. But then Chow's Gymnastics that you mentioned has their Winter Classic, which about 1,200 athletes in Hy-Vee Hall. So at the same time that the rodeo is going on, we've got a little politics, got a little gymnastics, and we keep moving that weekend.
Yeah, that'll be a busy time for you guys over there. A lot of people already in town following the candidates. So
yeah, they are. And, really that afternoon, it's MLK Day,
Yeah.
the day they have a caucus on that Monday, and the Wolves have a day game that day as well. So if you're off from work or school, you can get down and watch the G League while you're, waiting to see who wins the caucus.
You guys have another big concert coming up later this month, January 25th, Disturbed, the Take Back Your Life tour. Tickets still available at HyVeeTix.com for that one too, Adam?
Yeah, tickets still available for that one. We've got a great concert lineup,
Nice.
Some comedians coming up in 2024. And we think that we'll have some announcements coming up here soon too. I know we'll talk to Sam about that here later on, but a lot of times the holidays are a time for people to regroup and kind of get some time away. And then the booking agents get right back out there in January, and we see an influx of bookings coming up for the spring and fall. So we're looking forward to that. But Disturbed on January 25th should be a great show. They're at the State Fair a couple years ago, and we're happy to have them back in Des Moines coming up later this month.
Adam, we have a special guest actually joining us today. I think it's our first guest that we've had to bring on to All Access, but Sam Summers is the founder of First Fleet Concerts, promoting musical acts and entertainment throughout the state of Iowa and the Midwest. Sam also owns Woolies and Up Down in Des Moines East Village, and also runs the Hinterland Music Festival in St. Charles each summer here in Iowa. And in 2021, he purchased the historic Val Air Ballroom in West Des Moines with the help of city, state, and federal funding. The concert space has undergone, extensive repairs, restorations over the past year, over a year. And the Val Air Ballroom is set to host its first concert in more than a year coming up with Green Sky Bluegrass, February 29th. So we want to bring in a special guest, Sam Summers. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing really well.
Good.
Yeah, we mentioned Val Air Ballroom. The history of that place. A lot of people that are here in Central Iowa really know about Val Air Ballroom. I know it has a special meaning for you as well as you got into promoting concerts in the state. Just talk about why you wanted to kind of give new life to that space.
Yeah. I think, one, it's in my backyard, right? Like I live close to here. My first house was here in Valley Junction. And so we went to shows, growing up here, and over the last, say 10, 15 years, it's kind of continued to deteriorate, and, it's been harder to get shows in here. Right. So, I think someone needed to breathe some life into it, and we jumped up and raised our hand. So, we've been able to, get the help from, like you said, state, federal, city, and, in many different ways. And so, it's an exciting project. I didn't think it was ever going to end. But, I was just mentioning I'm here at the Val Air, and I don't hear any power tools in the background. So I think, I'm liking our target opening date.
Yeah,
So.
Replace those hammers and drills with the sound of guitars and drums, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, Sam, can you take us through a little bit of what the renovation involved? We've heard about Val Air a long time, especially as it was deteriorating, and the neighborhood talking about sound. And I know that you put a lot of time and effort into that. So, what's original, what's restored back to original, and then did you do anything new or other features to the space when we're going to reopen it?
Yeah. So with the historical renovation, we didn't change a whole lot with the layout, right? So people are going to come in here and they're going to recognize it. But what they're going to see is, added amenities. The place didn't have, nearly enough restrooms, right? Or accessibility, and then, just air conditioning and whatnot. Just the list goes on forever for what this place needed. And so, the general layout when you come in here is going to be very familiar for folks. One of the major changes we did was add a fly bay. If you drive by Val Air right now, you'll see this box kind of sticking out of the top of the building. Adam, you know what that is, but other folks may not. If you were to go stand on stage, whether it be Wells Fargo or Hoyt Sherman, you look straight up in the air, you'll see trim, you'll see up for a bit further, and that's where we hang truss and lighting and all that. Well, this room with its architecture, it was basically an A. It was a top like this, and so which made it difficult to hang straight truss and or video wall or really anything. And so most everything was ground stacked, and you didn't really get the full show from bands if they were willing to even play here. So touring has changed so much over the years. In the 50s, that wasn't necessary, right? Like people, amplified music is relatively new. But over the last 20 to 30 years, production has gotten a lot more advanced. A lot of these bands are traveling in, 5 to 10 semis for a show of this size. And so we have to have a place to put that and a way to hang it all. And so we put in this fly bay, and that's going to allow us to kind of fill our schedule. I was booking shows before, and there were so many conversations where it was just like, no, even our lowest rig won't fit in there, so we can't play Des Moines. And so, yeah, just kind of opening us up to a bunch more shows.
So I mentioned too how Val Air holds a special place to you. That was one of the first venues you booked one of your big shows, right? With Fallout Boy, was it almost 20 years ago?
That's right.
What do you kind of remember about that show and the Val Air specifically, just the history in that place, and what in these renovations did you guys try and do to kind of keep some of that? What are people going to maybe notice that's different, that's the same? And just going back to that.
There's two things. For that show, I remember not knowing what I was doing. So everything probably seemed cool to me because it was all new.
Yeah.
That would have been 2005, and I was a junior in college, and I was booking shows bigger than I probably should have been booking at that time. And so just kind of following the guidance of, people around me and understanding, how to run a show of that size, because that's a big show. I learned a lot at that show. I learned how to write better deals. I learned a little bit more about what bands expect at that level. And so, that's the whole thing with this business is you have to kind of do some of these things to learn, especially as you kind of grow up as an independent. You have to just trial and error, right? So that was a big learning show for me. We continue to do shows after that here too. And, but I would say, as a fan coming to shows here, some things I remember, seeing cool shows, right? So I saw Black Keys here. I saw the Killers here. I saw Dashboard Confessionals, one of the first shows I saw here. I think I went to a dance here and that sort of stuff. But it's definitely, it had its challenges, as we mentioned, especially doing a show in the summer in here. It was very hot. Yeah. So a lot of sweat dripping off the ceiling. And, I think it was Black Keys that, said that they would not play that room again. So I was
in there for a show in the summer with Bass Nectar, like a huge
I did that show.
Electronic band. Yeah. That was insane.
It was around the time of Pretty Lights as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned a good one. So Bass Nectar, again, like a band that brings so much gear and bass and audio, they're loading up the place. The idea is to like just overpower fans, right? Like that's kind of the thing. Lights and sound. So this place has definitely bled into the neighborhoods as far as sound goes. When we were going up, and that was like, there was no insulation in this roof. I mean, when we took it over, we had to solve a few things, right? I mentioned production. Sound mitigation was like high up. If we want to stay a venue and remain in this neighborhood and invest this sort of money into it, then there can't be any question, right? That we're going to keep all the sound in. So we engaged a sound mitigation expert out of Texas here, who's done like a bunch of projects with like House of Blues and kind of mitigating the sound between venues and hotels, and put together a plan, right, that we could quantify to lower the decibel level for outside. And with that, it's just, it's adding density and insulation and all sorts of stuff. So.
You mentioned Fall Out Boy being your first show that you booked there at Val Air, first big show. It's 2005. Later on this spring, Fall Out Boy coming back to Wells Fargo Arena. Can you give us a peek behind the curtain on how does that work, right? So you book the show as an independent promoter into Val Air. They continue to grow, get bigger. They play bigger rooms. Are you automatically involved in then putting them into Wells Fargo? Are you a partner with Live Nation on that? Or how does that kind of progression work with the act?
Yeah. So typically, every show is its own show when you're an independent, right? So yeah, we had a lot of history with the band Fall Out Boy. We started at House of Bricks, or no, we started at Vaudeville Muse actually, and then to House of Bricks, and then we did a show at Skate North for them, and then Val Air, and I remember after that Val Air show, talking about because I knew the band and I met with them. I'm like, yeah, I want to put in a Wells Fargo offer, and this is after I just said, I didn't know what I was doing with the Val Air offer. This band is totally aware of their value now. They're playing arenas and they're not going to mess it up. So I naively was like, yeah, I'm going to put this offer in for Wells Fargo. And, cause that's how I've always gotten to the next level, is just kind of just done it. And, and with that, when bands get to that level, sometimes they need the support of a national tour promoter, someone that works into the arenas on a regular, on the regular day. And they're having these, their marketing teams are on a national level, and they can run these campaigns that are very coordinated that roll out with the rest of the content, that the band's releasing. And so it wasn't in the cards. And I remember being kind of, upset about that, because that was the first band that I, was tight with. They stayed at my house. And so it was almost like, oh man, it's, are they my friends, or what's going on here? And, because that's how it had been that up till then. It was, I was booking my friends' bands or bands that I was talking to directly. And so when that happened, it kind of hardens you a little bit, and you're just like, okay, we'll fight for the next one. And they gave me a lot of opportunity through the years, meeting different agents. Because when I first started booking their shows, it was Pete booking his own shows directly. And so when they got an agent, I booked through that agent, and then they took out bands that were at other agencies, and it all just kind of spreads. And so yeah, definitely that was kind of the launch of First Fleet. Okay. So, yeah. Cool. But talking about the show at Wells Fargo, what is really awesome and kind of ironic is that over the last year we've put together a partnership with Live Nation to start working on shows in the marketplace. And like you mentioned, they are the ones bringing Fall Out Boy in April. It's April, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so with our partnership with them in the market, not only will we have opportunity to book into their rooms, we'll also be helping on marketing and sometimes running shows right at the arena level, and then obviously everything underneath and anywhere they work around the state. So it's a cool opportunity, and it's kind of fun how it comes full circle, and that'll be a really fun night. So
they may not be staying at your house this time when they come into town, but
man, I gotta get my house. Yeah.
So you mentioned Live Nation, they just opened back in November, the Vibrant Music Hall out in Waukee.
Yep.
I got a chance to take in a show there. Really cool space. What does kind of bringing new life back to Val Air Ballroom do for the music scene, do you think, here? I mean, it is a unique setting in the sense that it is a historic space. We have a few of those around the state, specifically here in Des Moines, but the size of that is a unique space. I don't know what the capacity is now, Sam, with the renovations, but what does bringing this event space back to the community mean to you and to this community?
Yeah. So one, I think it's just going to be so many more shows. My office is super busy right now with just the amount of volume coming through, right? We're having to make some adjustments with the amount of shows that we're just going to start pouring out. Because Val Air, we've been announcing a bunch, but we also have a new venue over in Davenport that we've been putting stuff into. And then with this partnership at Vibrant, it's just a lot more volume. And so for the customer, it's just gonna be more options, right? Sure. And Wells Fargo really, filled a good hole here when they opened, that in 2006 or whatever. And so, they'll the bands, they typically start out in the small clubs, right? So like you got your XBK, lefties, and then into your Woolies and then your Hoyt Shermans and Val Airs and Vibrants. And then, the hope for every band is to get to the arenas, right? And then, the cream of the crop get to the stadiums. And in Iowa, that's like one every 15 years. And so, the arenas play an important part on the way up. And then we're also there, I think some bands step back down from arenas, right? Especially legacy artists. And then they'll go and they'll play rooms like, renovated Val Air or Vibrant. And as you can imagine, bands that have tasted arenas are going to have high standards when it comes to the mid-sized clubs, if they do in fact keep going down. So it's important to make these rooms like the best, these Vibrant and Val Air, so that, the bands have a good place to play, when they can't play the arena.
Well, and you've told me too in the past too that bands will book spaces like Val Air because of the history, right? They want to play in a place that the Beach Boys have played in and stuff like that. So
I'm actually working on something right now for February, just to try to put together like a soft grand opening thing. And that's what I'm just using the story, right? Like to put together something cool, like, you tell them a little bit about the history, right? Like, obviously, Frank Sinatra and, Duke Ellington, Beach Boys' first show out of California, our first tour. And then, it was like the second show that the Winter Dance Party picked up after, the crash, right? Surf Ballroom crash. And I didn't realize this, but I was reading the other day, like Waylon Jennings took over lead, right? Which is interesting. I didn't know how those bands were all connected, but so Waylon actually took over lead for Buddy, what would have been Buddy Holly here.
So talking about that history, one thing when we went through the renovation of Vets Auditorium and turned it into a convention center, we were able to find a lot of historic photos and old ticket stubs and things to create some nice artwork pieces out in that lobby. When you purchased Val Air, were you able to capture any of that kind of historical information, and how are you planning on using that throughout the spaces when you reopen?
Yeah, absolutely. So Val Air, the Archer family was the original Tom Archer is who started Val Air Ballroom back in the 30s. And so how touring used to be is there'd be like these like circuits. And so he had a ballroom circuit in the Midwest. He had 6 ballrooms, one here, one downtown Des Moines that's no longer there. So what he would do is he'd have one in the city and then one in the country. And back in the day, this was the country. This was White Pole Road, Ashworth. And so it was an open air thing. And then it was on the rail line. And so people could get out here. And then he would run these bands around to all these different places. And, back then it was more about dancing and, kind of a party and whatnot. And now it's, and it wasn't until like, I think 50s that it became kind of like in stage, like people rocking out. With that, so his daughter is still alive. And she lives in Miami. But she owns the house next door to this, which he built as like his bachelor pad to like host the artists. And she's just turned that into like, storage or a museum of sorts of his things. And so she's come back a few times and gone through that stuff with me. And I've been able to get a lot of pictures. She's coming back this month and we're going to start getting some, actual hard items. And we plan to put those and use those around. It has everything from contracts to photos and, postcards, custom postcards he made. And he was really good friends with Lawrence Welk. And so like, there's a lot of photos of, Lawrence Welk here. And it's been really interesting to kind of go through and learn a lot, about the history of the place and, the people that played here. Obviously, I don't know a lot about those bands. And so just to kind of read up on them. As far as like finding things in the venue, there's an old Strauss safe that we could not get out of here. We tried every way we could, and it's like way old, and weighs a zillion pounds. So that's still here. And then we've got, I found 2 posters from the grand reopening of Val Air in 1950 something. So those are pretty sweet. We'll definitely archive one of those and display another. And those were just in a crawl space.
So we mentioned February 29th is that first concert, Green Sky Bluegrass coming. What are you most looking forward to about that? I know there's been a lot of probably blood, sweat, and tears put into that place, but is it going to be just a relief? Are you excited to get this all squared away?
Yeah. I'm excited. I'll probably I feel like whenever I open a new place, I'm just like behind the bar backing or something, just so I can like hide and take it all in.
Sure.
So I will be here for every show for like the first couple months. Like I said, this is very close to where I live. I can walk here. Seeing people come in, I think we booked a diverse lineup for our first, month, and we're adding to it. And so just seeing people come in. So, see the place again, and hopefully they, can give it another chance and change their 1 stars to 5s. So
sure. It's been over a year of construction going into that place. People that drive by will just see the progress. And I know that the iconic sign out front, right? Have you guys done anything to the exterior to give it a facelift too, or?
Yeah. So, with a historical project, it's about using the fabrics that existed, right? Mm-hmm. Or what the place was made out of. And so, this place was a CMU building. So we took it back to CMU, and then, the neons hadn't been on for our manager here we brought the manager that was here before, and he said those neons haven't been on for like as long as he knows. He's been here 20 some years. So we got those serviced, and those are running, and it's crazy. Everything's working. So
cool. I'm sure there are quite a few people too that you probably want to shout out and thank that made this possible. I know there was a lot of, like you mentioned, work through the city, the state, a lot of funding that went into this. Well, who made this possible, Sam?
Well, first and foremost, it would be the state historical. Sure. I mean, that this project wouldn't happen without that. But the city is close behind with that, and their TIF agreement. And then, the destination in Iowa is their federal funds, but delegated by the state. And so all of those things are the only reason this happened. And then there's a million people after that. But a project like this, where we're going in and shaking it and taking everything off of it and then putting everything on again could be more expensive than a fresh build. And likely was close, and you can't do those sort of projects without the help of the state. And so and federal government. And so that's why those programs were important, because if that didn't happen and I didn't come along and then use that, then this would have been, another, whatever it would have been, I don't know, tear it down. So,
Cool.
So those are the first. Yeah. It's hard to get past those.
Hopefully you don't have any of the neighbors coming to complain about the sound. Hopefully you got that figured out.
That isn't even an option on my mind. So it can't, we've put so much, that won't be a problem.
Well, it's one of those things too we talked about with with Vibrant opening, right? They basically got to build it from the ground up, right, from scratch. Well, you're taking this old historic, it's like a complete opposite of that, right? You're going into a space that's been around for almost 100 years, and hopefully making it last for another 100 years, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the idea. Is now this place should be able to be open forever, or at least as long as it's been open, right? So. That is exciting. So it's good for the neighborhood. So now if we could just kind of connect all the, West Des Moines and Des Moines and get everybody, sinking, it'd be great.
One thing too that I remember you telling me about that really you wanted to make sure stayed was the stage, right? The historic stage.
Yep.
You guys were able to preserve that, and
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. So yeah, that's a high priority, right? Like that is one of the items they identified as historically significant, and so
mhm.
that's all ready to go, and we'll probably do some events on there for our opening, and then it works really nice for some comedy, fully seated comedy stuff, like in a I mean, that's where they used to play. It's just like now you can't because it's so short. You can't stack stuff and whatnot. But comedy and weddings, quinceañeras, and all that sort of stuff is going to work great on there.
You mentioned comedy, and we've seen an influx of comedy hitting big arenas. I mean, I don't know what you're seeing, but do you think that that's going to be a trend that continues? In the booking world, that more and more comedians are going to get out and do bigger places than a Funny Bone and try to really grow their audience through touring.
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like everybody my age listens to comedy and not music.
Right.
So, or like comedy podcasts. A lot of these comedians have these podcasts and whatnot. I mean, like look at Tom Segura, right? Like I saw him at Funny Bone. I don't know how many years ago, but he's moved up through, I think he played Hoyt. I think he played Civic Center, and now he's at the Arena. So they're just blowing up quick. And then you got some others that are on track to do that. Who's that, like Daniel Tosh college type comedian right now that's blowing up?
Oh, the guy that just played Stevens? Matt Rife, yeah.
That'll be all arenas, right? Like eventually it's just, this stuff is just blowing up so quick. So, and I just think that's like fast media, YouTube, Netflix, all that. It's accessible. People are seeing it. So
from a setup, that's sure a lot easier than some of the other musical acts.
It's almost like cheating. We don't have to do much for these comedy shows. I mean, I remember doing a Patton Oswalt show at Hoyt, and I didn't need anybody to help, right? I went and picked him up from the airport, drove him to his hotel, picked him at his hotel, took him to Hoyt. No one with him. No, we settled the next day, and he's all he needs is a stool, 2 waters, and a microphone.
Right.
And he's not hanging out there. He's going back to the hotel, and they're just so easy. We've seen that. Podcasts are also. I don't know if you've had any of those at the Arena yet, but we've done a few of those in the clubs. And those are kind of fun too. So
that's our next stop, Adam. We got to do all access live from Val Air Ballroom.
Just build it up.
So there's this pod. I didn't realize this, but the one of the owners of Lachelle's runs a pod called Wine and Crime. And really? I guess it's massive and it tours, but it hasn't played Des Moines. So I'm trying to convince them to play here. So
I'm writing that down. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Check that out.
Yep.
Cool. Well, firstfleetconcerts.com. I know you can get a full list of the shows coming to Val Air Ballroom, all the concerts coming to Woolies, all of your spaces, Sam. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
No, I'm just, I'm in hinterland mode right now.
Yeah.
We're hoping to announce soon. We're kind of waiting. We got a couple artists that are playing Coachella, and we have to wait for Coachella to announce. And
there you go.
Coachella decides when they want to announce. So
those come out typically late winter, early spring.
Yeah, about this time, any time between now and February.
Okay.
We just following the lead of Coachella. So as soon as anybody sees Coachella's lineup, then hinterland will be very soon after.
Cool. Well, hey, congrats, awesome. Congrats on the opening, and man, wish you the best of luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks.
We really appreciate you coming on, Sam. I mean, this is kind of the vision for what we want this to be, is really talking about, all the venues and promoters and things with live music and live events in Iowa. So thanks for taking the time to come on and tell us more about Val Air and everything that First Fleet's doing, and always appreciate working with you and your team.
Yeah, hopefully you'll have me back and we can chat about how Val Air is going.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks, Sam. Cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Cool. He's Sam Summers. That was awesome. He's obviously a big influential person in the music scene here in Des Moines and Iowa. Man, it's cool. I got to interview him a couple of years ago. He got his start as a student at Iowa State, running First Fleet. So, man, he's come a long way, and it's cool to see what he's doing here in the Des Moines and the Midwest, really.
Yeah, I think it's tough to talk about live entertainment in Des Moines or Central Iowa without talking about Sam. From booking, like you said, when he was in college to what he's done and grown his business to now. We've got other venues throughout the state in Omaha that I know he's booked business in as well. And just to see that progression and for him to take the chance on Val Air and everything he's done, it's a tremendous story to hear about. And you want more people to get into this kind of business and grow it. So Sam's a great guy to have on.
For sure. Well, man, I know you guys have a busy spring coming up too. As you mentioned, some hopefully some shows coming and announcing soon. IowaEventCenter.com, HyVeeTix.com if you want to get a full list of shows coming here to Des Moines, Wells Fargo Arena. Adam, appreciate you.
Thanks for taking the time, Matt. And again, we send out our prayers to everybody in Perry. Really tough day, and thinking about you all there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Make sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcast.